Hi, welcome back to WSRP in Granite Square, where we at St. Raphael Parish try to give you a little bit of insight into life in the parish and life in the broader church. Once a week, we're running a little bit late this particular week. We wanted to include the coronation of the image of Our Lady in the parish garden, and we were able to do that. And then we had a few technical abilities and we had a few technical problems. So here we are, a little bit late in the week. Peter Labashi has announced two sets of ordinations, one the ordination to the diaconate and the other the ordination to the holy priesthood. And so they have decided to have the ordination of deacons David Gagnon and Joseph Moynihan on Saturday, May 30th, at 10 a.m. at the cathedral here in Manchester, Cathedral of St. Joseph. Bishop Labashi will be there, the deacon candidates will be there, and their closest friends and family will be there because they still are, all are still under statewide restrictions on numbers. Later, on June 6th, Saturday, June 6th at 10 a.m., also at the Cathedral of St. Joseph, our two current deacons in the diocese, Deacon Ryan Amazine and Deacon Joshua Livingston, will be raised to the dignity of the priesthood, and again that ceremony will be restricted. There will be celebrations later in the year when the coronavirus pandemic eases up, we pray, and those four men will be able to celebrate in a more robust fashion. But certainly from all of us here at St. Raphael, we want to extend to them our heartiest congratulations for the great things happening through God's grace in their life and for the great service that they promise to render to all of us here in New Hampshire. So we thank them for that and promise them our prayers. So put a tip of the hat to their parents as well for bringing those young men to this stage of life, and likewise to their seminary guides and formators and teachers, as well as the priests that they have known. Hi, you caught me. I was having a sip of coffee. I'm kind of a coffee crazy nut. We're here today to talk about a gift to the parish. Several years ago, I taught in the OLLI program. That's a lifelong learning institute that the University of New Hampshire has, and I had permission from the abbot at St. Anselm to teach a short course in, I think it was political communication. And one of the students afterwards talked to me and he said, "You know, Father," he said, "I have something that I'd like to give you. You might find it interesting to have." And I said, "Oh, what is it?" And he said, "Well, it's just a program from an event that I went to." And so when I kind of thought about it, I said, well, we'll see what he has, but a program from an event, my goodness, most of us are overwhelmed with programs from various banquets and events, and you can't keep them all. And anyway, I was wondering what he was going to have. So, by the way, the gentleman's name is Lee Drysdale. He's Polish background. The name, I think, the family name was anglicized, but he's a proud son of Polish heritage. And he said to me, here's the thing. So I took a look at it, and it was a banquet program from an event that was hosted a good few years ago by the late Cardinal Umberto Medeiros of Boston. And it was for various Polish organizations in metropolitan Boston, I think from New England, and different groups went down. And they went down because they were meeting a clergyman from Poland who was on a visit to the United States. And he said, "Take a look at that program now, Father." And I looked at it, and sure enough, the guest of honor was Karol Józef Cardinal Wojtyła. And Cardinal Wojtyła was the Archbishop of Kraków, the ancient capital of Poland and the second city after Warsaw in the country. And Cardinal Wojtyła, as you know, went on to become Pope John Paul II. And he signed the program. So we have his signature here, and it's signed as a cardinal, as Cardinal Wojtyła. And Cardinal Wojtyła, Pope John Paul II, this coming week on May 18th, would have celebrated his 100th birthday. So there are a number of masses and a number of things going on around the world to commemorate his 100th, and I'm happy that we have this little connection to him. My personal connections to the Cardinal, apart from having the privilege of being ordained a priest while he was Holy Father. I was ordained in 95, and in fact I took my first vows in 1990 and my solemn vows in 1993, and he was Pope all through that. John Paul was Pope, if I'm correct, between 1978 and 2005. So he had one of the longest pontificates in the history of the Church, and Pope John Paul II was eminent in so many areas. It's really too much to say in any one particular thing. He was a great writer, he was a dramatist, he was a poet, he was obviously a priest and a bishop, a cardinal. He was very strong in seeing through the creation of the Catechism of the Catholic Church, a revision of the Code of Canon Law. He was very strong in strengthening the Church after some difficulties in earlier years. The years after the Second Vatican Council led to a lot of problems and abuses, and although Pope John Paul II was able to fix a lot, of course wasn't able to fix everything, but nonetheless he made a huge contribution. He's probably the most traveled Pope ever, and certainly no human being, I think, in the history of the world has been seen by more people than John Paul II. His open-air masses attracted hundreds of thousands, even millions, to the masses that he attended, that he celebrated. His work to stimulate youth and get them involved in the Church, the World Youth Days, were very, very popular. So a lot of stuff that he did, but I want to show you this, which is a very precious thing for us here at St. Raphael. So we literally have the signature of a saint. So it's an important relic, and it is to be visible right here. And you can see down at the bottom of the program, you will see the signature that is there. So very grateful to Lee Drysdale for his generosity, and it is a precious connection that we have in our parish to this great, holy, and noble man who was described by one American Protestant when the Pope came to visit the United States in 1979, and I believe she said, "There is a Pope who knows how to Pope." And he certainly did that. So God bless him. Happy birthday, St. John Paul II. And we'll see you the next time we have something to tell you and show you from the archives of St. Raphael. Thank you. Hi, everybody. This is Father Jerome, and we're here in the Rectory Nook for another Nook Chat. Today we have a topic of a quite different nature. We're talking about wedding preparation, marriage preparation with Lillian and Lionel Coulon. Lillian Doucette Coulon. She is a happily married lady to him, and is a good sign to us that God's grace is victorious in so many respects of our lives. And if you've been reading our bulletin, you saw that last week we had an opportunity to have a Q&A with them, and the Coulons shared some of their insights. They're retiring after more than 3 decades of marriage preparation, both here at St. Raphael and before that at St. Edmund Parish, now sadly closed. But they brought their own experience of married life and their own broad range of experience to that particular task, that ministry that we employ for young couples or sometimes older couples who are choosing to get married. So we have a few questions for them, and they have a lot of insights to share with us. So without any further ado, I would like to, first question would be to just simply to say, how many years are you guys married?
56 plus.
56 years. Wow. So it probably do get to retire if you want to. First of all, I want to thank you both for the generosity that you have shown for many years to us at St. Raphael and likewise at St. Edmund. There are many couples. How many couples have you cared for, would you say, estimated?
We kind of figured out it was over 125.
I would think so.
At least,
Wow.
at least.
And I would imagine
Yeah.
that most of those people are still relatively happily
Well,
married.
we do run into a couple that's a couple weeks ago at the grocery store.
Yeah.
They were coming out. They were second marriage for both of them, lost their spouses. They dated in high school, went their separate ways. Later on, got back together and now they're happily married. And we see them on different
Lovely,
occasions.
lovely.
You know, it's nice
Lovely.
to see that.
What would you know, if you look in the world, so to speak, and you can find this in magazine after magazine after magazine, the focus of the world is on the big day.
Mm-hmm.
And with no disrespect to anybody who's involved in the wedding industry or anybody who's looking forward to the reception of the sacrament of matrimony. I think I have 4 coming up this summer and 6 up to the end of the year, which is more than I have had myself in a few years to witness their marriages. But what would you say to a couple who puts so much emphasis on the big day versus the married life? How would you approach that to them?
Usually, when they talk about this is going to be the most important day of our lives, and I'll say to them, "Oh, so it's more important than your first child," and I say, "Well, they don't know what to say," and then anything else that happens. So we try to tell them that this is one day of your life. It is an important day, but you've got the rest of your life together. There's going to be ups and downs. Whether you like it or not, everybody does. But is it really the most important day? It is an important day, and you can't get away from it.
Certainly the most expensive day
It
they're
is.
going to have for a while until their kids get to college.
Yeah.
But here's,
Exactly.
you talk about expenses. What seems to be a trend these days is these destination weddings.
Mm-hmm.
This way they get to have a free vacation, a free honeymoon, and all the relatives who are going to the destination wedding pay for it.
But they
Yeah.
don't think of it that way.
They don't
Yeah.
look at it
Yeah.
that way.
Primarily because most of them lack a sacramental dimension. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's true.
And the sacrament is so important. Of course, it's interesting, isn't it? When a couple gets married, it's actually the couple that confers the sacrament of matrimony on each other. Isn't that
Sure.
right?
And I
Yeah.
think that's what we stress,
Yeah.
that they're actually the ones that are doing the sacrament to each other,
Yeah.
and the priest is only witnessing
The priest is a witness for the
For
church,
Christ.
for the
and
church.
your best man and your your
exactly,
what do you
yeah.
call it, the maid of honor or the matron of honor.
For the
They
s-
are the witnesses for the state.
Right.
How would you react to this? See if I'm on the right track when I do the preparation myself, because we work as a team on marriage
You always do.
preparation, as
Yeah.
you know. But I often say to them, when you marry, there should be nothing between you and your spouse, except your love, obviously, and one other reality. And I said that reality is Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That the Lord Jesus, from a Catholic point of view, stands between you to bring you together, to bring you to your best self, to pull you to the best kind of couple you can be, and to help you in the process of building a family. So that the presence of Christ is never or should never be a source of division, but rather a focus of unity for a couple. Does that square with the way marriage prep is undertaken?
Always.
Always, yeah.
Always.
I mean, stressing
One of the
it.
things we stress is that when you have good times, you should thank the Lord, and they do. When you have bad times, what do? You go to the Lord.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can't get away from it, so you always have the Lord with you.
I know you were a military family at the start of your
Yeah,
wedding.
the beginning.
How long did you?
8 years.
8 years, okay. And Lionel was, he was in the presidential Tootle Guard or something.
No.
Where
I was.
Where were you assigned?
I was assigned
And what branch were you in?
I was in the Air Force,
The Air
and
Force.
like everybody else, I went to Texas.
Yep.
And then after that, I got stationed up in Bangor, Maine, and I got stationed with what was the original Flying Tigers from World War II.
Oh, really?
And so, yeah, and I didn't know this at the time, and I was kind of proud of it. to be a
No,
son.
this was during the First World War. So
No,
these-
not that. Yeah, excuse me, Father. We're not
What
that.
are, what are the year, what are the years?
63.
What? Up in
In
Bangor?
Bangor, I went 63.
63.
So you're a
63.
Vietnam era veteran.
Yeah, when I was up
Oh.
after being in Bangor, Maine for a few years, I was shipped over to Vietnam.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Yeah, and I stayed in Vietnam for a year.
And at that point, while he was there, I was
Bangor.
back actually
we were
in
married.
Penarville.
You
We
were-
were married by then.
Yeah.
Okay.
When he left to go to Vietnam, I was home with a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Right.
and one of the things that I found the whole year that he was gone, every Sunday I would go over to my mother-in-law's and she would watch the kids so that I could go to Mass.
Oh, lovely. Very nice.
And then I would go and have lunch with her.
Oh, very nice.
So that was good. I mean,
Yeah.
because that time at church was important to me.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
kind of, gave me a little bit of peace.
Now, one of the things I found interesting about your own experience, Lillian, is that you're a native of St. Raphael Parish.
Yes, I am.
So it's
Yeah.
great that you guys came back to
Yeah.
us. Nobody liked the closing of a
Yeah.
parish, of
No.
course, but when St. Edmund went down, you came back home. So
And the reason
great.
why we ended up at St. Edmund is because when we got out of the military, we were living in Penarville.
Sure,
And
sure.
St. Edmund was a mile away
Right,
from
right,
us.
right.
Yeah.
So we automatically
Right
went
Yeah,
there, so
yeah.
the kids could go to religious ed with the kids they went to school with.
Now, tell me this: if we will search for some couple to take up your responsibility, but if you had any advice to give to a middle-aged or a young couple, actually been married a few years, of course, to undertake this ministry, what would you say to them?
One of the things you're going to find out is you have to have patience. You have to have patience. You're going to let them say it. You're going to let them come out what they have to say. And the discussion should be with each other, not with us. We do find out a lot of things about the couples, but the important thing is that they talk to each other.
And
they
that's
yeah.
that's one of the things I would stress, that whoever takes over the program, let the couples say whatever they have to say,
So the whole process really is meant to enhance their communication.
Their communication
And
skills, yeah.
confidentiality
Yeah.
is so
Yeah,
important.
that's definitely.
Well, you've
So,
done a great job.
but,
What if you had to say what was the greatest joy that you found in marriage prep? What would you? what
Meeting the
would you
different
say?
couples,
Oh, boy.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some really good experiences with the couples,
lovely, lovely.
encouraging.
Yes,
One-
good.
one-
And it's good to see couples that you've done a marriage prep that are married and then they have like 2 or 3 kids and we say, oh, good, we did feel a good job, obviously.
Well, it's. I mean, it is a real sign already that if a couple is willing to go through the requirements of marriage preparation in the church, that
Yeah.
they're serious about their faith and
Yeah.
they're probably pretty good people. One of the things that I might want to share with our audience is that marriage preparation in the church is a multi-stepped process, and very briefly, the first and longest step is the inventory and then the discussion that happens with the marriage team or the marriage coordinators, and then that's followed by a session with me where we talk about what has been determined to be areas of concern that they might want to talk about. That's followed by a talk with me on the sacramental nature of marriage and what that means in terms of faith and religious practice. And then finally, there's a session where they talk about how they want to plan the celebration liturgically. And then apart from that, there's a pre-Cana program that they're asked to participate in. It could be a weekend, it could be a long day, but they look at every aspect from communication and finance to intimacy to communication to whatever. And so by the time a couple is finished with marriage preparation in the Catholic Church, at least as it's provided in this diocese and certainly here at St. Raphael, I'm pretty confident that they have a fairly mature and deep understanding of the sacrament and of themselves. So we pray that that is the case for everybody. And again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you before too long. 2 other news items we want to share with our viewers. Earlier this month, on Friday, May 1st, the bishops of the United States, on the feast day of St. Joseph the Worker, consecrated the United States as well as Canada with their brother bishops up to the north, consecrated both countries to the special protection of our Blessed Lady during this time of pandemic. And so it's a good thing to know, and an even more important thing to remember in our prayers to Mary, that we turn to her as our model, our guide, and our intercessor in all of these things. Now, let's hear from Sammy, the WSRP weather dog, who has come back from her last round of treats with some information, meteorologically speaking, for each and every one of us. The last item I'd like to talk about are face masks. As you can see, here at the rectory, we've been graced by a number of parishioners who have provided us with masks. And I want to give a shout out to the ladies of the parish and anybody who has worked on developing protective face masks. We are now asked in New Hampshire and really in much of the country, people are being asked to wear these masks when they go outside. Keep in mind that the mask you wear protects others from droplets that come from our mouth and which may or may not be contaminated, but for the time being, it's a very useful and helpful way of trying to limit the spread of this disease. And who knows, it might even protect us from the droplets of others. The direction of protection is primarily from the wearer to the people around him or her, but it's an important thing to keep in mind. So I have several. I have this one, which is broad enough to cover the face. And then I know Kathy Carignan was very kind and made me a very fashionable one for me to wear. And it goes kind of like this. I'm not quite sure how I put it on, but I guess like this. And so it's color coordinated with my habit. I think there's a little cross that's visible. So I thank Kathy, and I thank Ann Kenny, who I believe made this one and a couple of others that I have. And it's the, oh, can't do that. Sorry about that. It's a very useful and very helpful thing. And in fact, the cartoon that came out a couple days ago, I think is very appropriate. You can see in this image of a lady who has just finished making a pile of these face masks. She's pretty proud of herself, as well she should be, and she's striking the pose of Rosie the Riveter, the famous and really iconographic image of a woman who was working in the factory machine shops during the Second World War. The coronavirus pandemic is, in fact, a kind of war, isn't it? It's an hidden enemy, an unseen enemy, but no less a real enemy. And that enemy attacks the most vulnerable and the most marginalized around us. So it behooves us to be careful, to be smart in the way we conduct and comport ourselves, and to be patient, to try to stay well and to keep others that way. So anyway, we thank you for that, and keep watching.